Well, another one comes and goes, Joe, and
We survived, yes.
we're a day older. Sometimes I wonder whether we're a day wiser, but we're a day older.
Well, think about this. If you had said, let's say back in October or November, that there was going to be a storm in the month of February that was going to equal the amount of snow that fell at Central Park during the entire month of January, you'd get rather excited, wouldn't you?
Right, except for the fact that what did New York City get, about an inch and a half out of this? Snow and sleet?
Well, I saw, according to the 5 o'clock or 5:55 snow amount, 1 inch. And actually, that still wasn't equal to January. January did get 1.1. So,
well, there's still time.
Still time, yes.
He's Joe Rayo, Fios One News, Hudson Valley.
And he is Joe Chiappi, Fios One News, New Jersey, and Long Island.
All right, it seems that the bulk of this is done. There are still some issues, however, so why don't we get to it? And that's mainly now for the inland spots, because when we pull up the current temperatures, the good news for coastal areas and for the metro areas, the temperatures have all gone above freezing, and they've done so in the last couple of hours. It's funny how the models that we use today just really underdid the amount of cold air that came in today, and yet they seem to get the rise in temperatures in terms of the timing for the coastal areas pretty good. Right. It's the inland spots, Joe, where we were still dealing with temperatures that are well below freezing.
I think it's part of the problem, Joe, is that it's a matter of topography, that perhaps the computer models are working with basically just a flat piece of land, flat ocean or whatever like that. But of course, we have those areas to the north and west, the elevated areas, the mountains and the hills that, well, in the valley spots you can trap in quite a bit of cold air, and it seems like that's what the models have a hard time in dealing with, is properly accounting for that, and that's why we have what we have. Cold air still stuck up north and the milder air encroaching up from the south over the coastal and urban locations.
Yeah, it looks like it's all north of 287 in Westchester County. You got temperatures up in the mid-20s when you head up toward your neck of the woods, Putnam, Orange, Dutchess County.
I will say one thing, though, and I think the lesser of two evils. My wife tells me that my driveway, after she cleared away about 2.5 inches of snow from our driveway and our patio, another inch of, and it was not snow, it was sleet, but it was like she had difficulty in describing what it was, little balls of ice or little particles of ice. She said when she tried to use the snow shovel on it, it was almost like pushing away sand. And I'll tell you, I would much prefer that as opposed to having freezing rain, which would have just come down as rain, hit my driveway, froze on contact, and would have left my driveway looking like the skating rink at Madison Square Garden just before a Ranger game. That apparently is not happening, but still there is quite a bit of sleet that has accumulated on my driveway. And I'm sure the driveways of many folks who live up in the upper echelons of the Hudson Valley.
North and west of 287 in New Jersey, we're still in the 20s. Up in Sussex County, it's in the low 20s as of 9:35. But you go down to central New Jersey, it's in the upper 30s and even some middle 40s starting to show up. 195 was a wall today. It took a while. That 32-degree line just sat there. And there were some weird things that happened during the day, too, Joe. We saw these pockets of cold air where everybody else was sleeting, and yet there were these little pockets that developed around between 1 and 3 o'clock where spots on Long Island, in and around New York City it happened, and in parts of northern New Jersey, where all of a sudden it started snowing hard for a brief period of time. Hard to figure out why that happened like that, but it certainly was an interesting phenomena to watch.
Could it have been related perhaps to banding?
Could be. Could be. Last night we talked about the fact that we had that cold air and the dry air damming down. I think it was a double-edged sword in that we had snow on the radar showing up through southern New Jersey and in east and much of southern half of Pennsylvania, and the dry air kept that from blossoming. So we avoided getting a thump that would have left 4, 5, or 6 inches. On the other hand, the dry air was also colder air. It was very dry this morning, so when the precip did develop, you wound up seeing the bottom part of the atmosphere cool down to upper teens to middle 20s. And I think that created the scenario of this sort of long duration sleet,
Right.
and not a whole lot of freezing rain, but sleet.
Right.
And then it went over to, now it's gone over to rain for Long Island, central South Jersey to New York City, and of course we just described. And now, of course, Joe, the primary low in eastern Lake Huron, you've got the secondary low that's sitting down in Chesapeake Bay. This is all going to play out in the next couple of hours. We'll get the last of the precip out of here, which on the radar is, this last band to the west is starting to break up a little bit. Got some rain over Long Island as of this time, and a little bit of freezing rain in the areas as you go up to the north and up into Connecticut. We'll get through all of this, and then weather conditions improve after that.
I have to say that the HRRR model and also the 12 and 3 kilometer NAM models were all stating many hours ago, I might add, that there was going to be some kind of a hole in the precipitation centered over the tri-state area roughly around 11 o'clock, and it seems that that is exactly what is going to transpire.
There it is. That's the 11 o'clock map, and there's that hole.
Right.
Freezing rain and sleet, north of Route 84 up in Connecticut, but you got this hole, and then the last batch of precip that comes through around midnight to about 2-3 a.m., and then we're done. And we start to see improving weather conditions going into tomorrow. And looks to me, Joe, and I think you won't disagree, the next couple of days look pretty good.
Yeah, and I was hearing about, tomorrow may, the backlash of these storms, the gusty winds, which indeed will be gusting at times to over 30 miles an hour from the...
Yeah, there's a pretty decent gradient there.
Right, from the west. And they were talking about maybe there might be power outages tomorrow as opposed to today or tonight because of the ice that has accumulated on some of the power lines and trees. But I must tell you, and again, from what my wife tells me, and I'm surrounded by a lot of trees where I live, she said, I don't see that glistening effect on the trees. It doesn't seem like the branches or the limbs had any kind of significant ice accretion, again, because it was more sleet than freezing rain. So
yeah.
Maybe we've dodged a bullet in that regard. But it will be a breezy day. Starts off sunny, a bit of instability in the afternoon. There'll be a buildup of cloud cover, and but that doesn't mean a storm is on the way. And Thursday, Valentine's Day, looks like a sweetheart of a day, mid-40s, sunny to partly cloudy skies. So the next couple of days look much better than what we went through today.
Another big storm coming into the west. We actually have one part of it coming in now from the southwest into California with heavy rains and snows, and then another one as we head into Thursday and into Friday, and some of that energy starts to come eastward. We get a cold front through here, maybe a couple of showers on Friday. Starts to turn colder on Saturday. Now, neither of us really gave this a solid look. I just certainly didn't have time today, but it looks like, we talked about the fact that there might be some opportunities for more winter weather going forward if the atmosphere set itself up right. And it looks like there are a couple of systems here. I pulled up the parallel GFS because it was the only one I really didn't look at today. And there is a lead system on Saturday that goes out underneath us, showing some snow into southern New Jersey and into southern Pennsylvania. But again, neither of us have really looked too deeply to dissect the pattern to see how realistic any of this is.
This was hardly on the map yesterday, and I'll tell you how I discovered it. I was looking at the long-range GFS MOS into the upcoming weekend, and they have the conditional numbers for possible snow accumulations, which were flat out zero across the board through the end of the week, into the weekend, on into early next week. Yeah. And I'm looking at the numbers, and I just all of a sudden did like a double take. I said, what the heck is this? On Sunday, for White Plains, they had 4, which means 4 to 6 inches of snow. And I said, what
which
is this?
We don't believe that. So no, now, there's nothing here.
But then I had to stop, and I had to say, well, where's this coming from, or whatever. And that's when we saw this double system.
Well, I had it in. I actually had it in off the European yesterday. Had some hints of it for something.
Hints, but I mean, like that's a flat out snowstorm on Sunday.
Right. Well, here's the parallel tonight, which has a couple of weak systems going by, and then fires another one up into the southeast. Does it make it up here? I don't know. This model, admittedly, is after about 84 hours, in my view, has just been absolute garbage.
Still on the drawing board. So
Yeah,
back
so
to the drawing board.
I'm really not too thrilled about the way that the parallel GFS has performed. That it's going to become the operational. So this is what the regular GFS does, and here's that first system for Saturday that goes out, and then there's another one behind it on Sunday that comes a little further north.
That's the one that gave 4 inches,
right?
6 inches.
And the Europeans got some similar idea to this, and then there's another one behind it for this time next week, perhaps making its approach. But the point is, folks, we honestly didn't give this a good analysis, so it just kind of showing it up there, and because I know it's already, as a few people have already messaged me, we're not even done with the first one. They're already talking about the next two.
Exactly.
In a winter where we've only had 2,
right,
or 3, depending on your location. So one thing at a time, folks. Okay, I don't know about you, but I am really tired today.
Yeah, well, we
stuff
both
takes
came
a
in
lot out of
early
you.
today. I was here from 11. You came in a few moments after I got in or settled in, and we normally don't get in till about 2 o'clock or 1:30, 2 o'clock. So it's been a long day for us.
Yes, it has, and I stayed nearby last night, so I had a pretty simple drive. Weather Wolves, nice to see you. On board tonight, Francis Benoit. It was like a sleet storm an hour or so ago. I'm not sure where you are, Francis. Where is your area? I'm assuming that you're still probably up north and northwest. Oh, Addison Green is on.
Green is here.
He's telling us that it's rainy in Queens.
Okay.
Awesome. And Addison will be here tomorrow during the day, right here on Fios One News with Brittany Bora, running down through the. Jason Kaplan. It did take a little while for it to get going, but we saw that happening last night with all that dry air that came around. So that as we said earlier, it was a double-edged sword to see that, because it cut down on a solid area of snow developing, but on the other hand, that cold air also stayed around into this evening and extended the period of sleet and freezing rain.
I might also point out that because it was so dry and cold at the start, that what we ended up with, that what we started off with, was a puffy, fine-grained snow, and you wouldn't have known that what was going to happen in a very short interval of time was the transition from puffy and fine grain to kind of a mushy, slushy snow to sleet and ice, which is what we ended up with over a span of just 2 or 3 hours.
Mike Corman wants to know: are you saying that the world is not flat?
Ah.
I did see that meme that was running around, though. It would make a really great reality show to have flat earthers search the world for the edge.
Yes.
Which would be...
It's very scary. There are people out there who, and there are websites, the Flat Earth Society, believe
yes,
it or not.
and the Flat Earth Society is on its homepage that they have members all around the globe.
Yes.
All right, so look, let's before you and I both get punchy, let's call it a night, shall we?
Fine with me. It's
okay.
Been a long, long day.
So it's funny how Seattle has more snow in the past week than we've had all season. Paul Gadusi, it works that way. That really is a signature of just how deep the trough is in the west, and the fact that we've had the ridge in the east. So when it snows in Seattle, it's usually not a good pattern for it to snow here.
Let's also jog your memories that places in the desert southwest, Phoenix, for example, about a month or so ago had snow, which doesn't happen for them very often. So there are places that don't often see snow that did see snow. And at the very beginning of this season here in the east, there was that big snowstorm in parts of Virginia and North Carolina. Seems like everybody's been getting it, and when we finally get it, I looked over both Albany and also New York City, Joe, and I didn't find any place in the Hudson Valley that had more than, let's say, 5 inches of snow in one sitting.
Right. It was, we didn't really go for big amounts. And by the way, I saw a number of different things. I just want to bring this up because, it speaks to what you and I both do. We don't spend... I certainly don't spend any time watching what other people do or say. Frankly, I really don't care. there's a small core group of people that I do, respect professionally, and I'm not talking about them in this instance. However, a number of people over the last couple of days have remarked about the absolute lack of hype that they find when they come and watch us, or when they read what we post, my stuff on my websites or on my app. And I just want to say that I really appreciate that very much. I try to keep everything, at least with the stuff that I put out there, on a very even keel. If I think something, I tell you, and if I don't think something, I will tell you also. And I know a lot of you forecast shop, okay? It's very popular. You can do it while sitting on your computer, and you don't have to go to a mall. So you'll look at our forecast and you'll say that, well, so-and-so is saying this. How come you're saying that? How come you're higher? How come you're lower? Well, in this particular instance, our numbers were lower than than the numbers that were out there, and it worked out, knock on wood. So thank you very much for your support. That is what I'm getting at. I really appreciate it.
Some years ago, somebody told me that because I have a propensity to be lower than a lot of other forecasters, I've come up, and this is ironic because you and I both started off as probably, we were card-carrying snow weenies. We were always looking for the potential of a big snowfall. We were,
well, it's funny because you and I have had these conversations a number of times, and when we're looking at these snow events, and I already have in mind I got in my head what we're doing, and then you and I are kind of we're close, but if you look at our forecasts when it comes to these snow events, I'm usually the one that's on the higher end, and you're usually on the one that's lower than. But then there are a couple of times when then you and I don't talk to each other until we put the forecast out, and we're both exactly in the same place. Right. It's part of the struggle that we go through because, unlike rain, you don't ask for a raindrop count. Okay.
Yeah.
Really, I mean that's what it boils down to. You're asked, if we tell you there's going to be 1 to 2 inches of rain. If we wind up inside that range, even though if it winds up being 1.01 or 1.99,
right,
it's rain.
Right.
Things get wet, you deal with it. But when it comes to snow, Joe, everybody basically from us wants an exact flake count. Right. Okay, for their not only for their zip code, but for their driveway or their walkway that's under the awning, to the left of the giant oak tree, to the side of the mailbox. And let's just say that is a bit more challenging. Okay, so that's why it seems like the errors sometimes can be a bit wider. Sometimes the errors are small. Sometimes they can be wider. But bottom line is we try our best. We say what we think and not what we hope.
But the thing that what I was trying
not that we hope it, by the way.
What I was stressing here is the fact that you get a reputation eventually as to how you forecast these things. And somebody once told me that during an impending potential big winter storm, I had gone for a rather large number, and this guy went back to his clique of weather weenies or whatever, and he said, you want to know that we're definitely going to get it, or want to know it's really something? Rayo even went for a big snowfall amount. You get that reputation after a while that if moi goes for a major number, that's something that all the snow lovers like, that hey, then it's going to happen, because if Rayo went for it, then everybody's going to go for it. So it's that kind of a thing.
Everyone has its challenge,
and you said about shopping or looking at other forecasts. I used to work for a guy. He was the news director at WHJJ in Providence, Rhode Island, and before he pre-taped me for the radio in the morning, like 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I'd give him my forecast, and then after I finished the forecast, he said, well, Copeland said, and Copeland was Bob Copeland, one of the TV meteorologists up in Boston.
Right.
So he's telling me what Bob Copeland said, and I said, I don't care if Bob Copeland went for this. This is your station is paying for what I think is going to happen.
Right.
If you want Bob Copeland's forecast, go to Bob Copeland.
Hire him. I used to give that answer too.
Yeah.
I guess it's just the nature of it. Snow lovers get mad if the forecast busts, and then
this gets back to Bob Copeland. Nothing against you, Bob.
Yes. Snow lovers get angry and they'll lash out when it doesn't happen. And basically, I've really come to the conclusion that they're not necessarily angry with us, but they're just angry at the fact that they were anticipating this, great joy at seeing everything covered in snow.
But
they don't have to work with it, and they don't have
had
to drive in it.
6 consecutive above normal
Winters
with snow. You had 4 nor'easters in March last year. You knew it was going to come to an end. And that's what they keep telling the Knicks. They keep
to quote Ralph Cramden, some people are never satisfied.
And every dog has his day.
That's right. Speaking of which, these dogs got to go because I have to get to FiOS 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey at the top of the hour.
And I, at the top of the hour, go to FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley. And tomorrow and Valentine's Day should be a lot nicer and a lot quieter than what we went through today.
Glory, hallelujah. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow here where you can catch me. Make sure you catch the live stream on YouTube. And if you haven't yet already, you got to download the free weather app, okay? So please do. It's on Google Play. It's on. It's in the App Store, and just search meteorologist Joe Chaffee so that you can have more weather than you could possibly know how to do it. You don't even have to go forecast shopping outside the app. You can actually forecast shop inside the app for every place from Caribou, Maine, all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, when it comes to snow. Okay, so download it today. It's free. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Free is good.
It is.
Yeah.